We are not judged by HaKadosh Baruch Hu by our results, but rather by our efforts.
Wherever you get your podcasts from, or our own website, prismoftorah.com. This is the Prism of Torah with Rabbi Asaf Aaron Prisman.
I want to share with you an amazing, unbelievable true story that I heard by a friend of mine, a big Talmid Chacham, Rabbi Avram Jacobson, over here in our Kehillah, who spoke during this couple of days ago at the shul, and he was making an appeal for people to support the children's program. And he said the following story, which I think is very important to share with you. And it goes the following, and of course this is a true story. Once upon a time, not so long ago, there was this person that unfortunately went off the derech. Ad kedei kach, got to an extreme that he went to his uncle that was not shomer Torah mitzvahs, and he stayed there for over 2 years. Things reached rock bottom when he decided to marry someone not Jewish. And even the uncle, he went to live with the uncle that was not shomer Torah mitzvahs. And even the uncle who lived in Tel Aviv realized, whoa, this is already going off board over here. We have to do something about it. So he said to him, please, you have to speak to your parents. You can't do such a thing without speaking to your parents. He goes, I'm willing to speak to my parents, but only on my terms. I'm very busy. I can only drive there on Shabbos, and I'm willing to go. So unfortunately, that's what he did. He drove there on Shabbos. The whole Shabbos he's smoking on their balcony on Shabbos. And at one point, surprisingly, the father goes to the son and he says, listen, I'm going to a shir. Would you like to join me? The son says, who's giving the shir? He says, Rav Steinman, Zatzal. He's giving the shir. So the son says, okay, I'm willing to go. And they went together to the shir. After the shir, don't ask me why, but this was a true story, so I'm saying it over. The father says to Rav Steinman, this is my son, and at this point in life, he's not Shomer Shabbos. This is on Shabbos, of course. And Rav Steinman looks in the eyes of this person, and he says, how long is this for? And he says, 2 years. He says, listen, during these 2 years, did you have any time of regret, of hilhurei tshuva? And he said, yes, 4 times. He goes, how long? How many minutes did you have this regret and hilhurei tshuva? He says, each time around 10 minutes. So Rav Steinman looks at him. I guess only Rav Steinman can do this. And he says to him, each time 10 minutes? That's 40 minutes of amazing tshuva. Wow, I envy you for those minutes. Because the Gemara tells us that b'makom shebalei tshuva oimdim, a place that balei tshuva reach, even tzaddikim gmurim, 100% tzaddikim, pure tzaddikim cannot reach. And that's it. And then they left. And Baruch Hashem, those words of Rav Steinman had a ripple effect on this boy, Bachur. And eventually he couldn't go through with the marriage to a Goya. And he changed his whole life around based on that. And eventually went back to his parents, got married, and learned Torah, and does very positive things. But then someone asked a shaila on this, a big question on this whole story. Why in the world was this kid willing to go to Rav Steinman when he was at the point where he was not even Shomer Shabbos? Why was he willing to go with his father? And they decided, let's ask him. So they go up to him and they ask him. There's a whole video about this, by the way. I think Or Sameach put it out. And they ask him, well, what's pshat? Why were you willing to go? And he says, I'll tell you why I was willing to go. Because, like many of the schools over here, the Chadarim do, when you finish learning something, you go to get tested by the Gedolei Ador. So our cheder went to Rav Steinman, and everyone stood and had his turn, and he asked him questions. And when they gave the right answer, he gave him a candy. It came to my turn. He asked me one question, I didn't know the answer. He asked another question, I didn't know the answer. He asked another question, a third question, I didn't know the answer. And then we all started walking away. And when no one noticed, he tapped me on my shoulder and he says, come back for a second. And he says to him, I want to tell you something. And only Rav Steinman can say this, of course. He says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he does not judge us the way we think we are judged in this world. We are not judged by HaKadosh Baruch Hu by our results, but rather by our efforts. And everyone got one candy because they had one effort on one question. But you had to work really hard. You had 3 questions to think of. And hence, you deserve 3 candies. And he gave him 3 candies. And he left. He said, until today, I'll never forget that experience. And that is why I was willing to go to him again. Look at the effect of a candy. or 3 candies we shall say, or the attitude of looking at kids and at the world of a gadol. Yiratzon will be zoiche to appreciate the importance of giving over sweetness to the kids as they grow up with a relationship of Yiddishkeit, and what a great time such as Sukkos to do it. Have a good Yom Tov and a good Shabbos.
Thank you for joining us. This is the Prism of Torah. Visit our website, prismoftorah.com, where you'll find a full archive of hundreds of past Divrei Torah. Subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review, and don't forget to share with your friends and family. Sponsorship opportunities are available for all of our episodes. Thank you, Yona Vefa, for your recording equipment. Produced by Eli Podcast Productions.